there it is again. Yep, it's back. Just floating there. It's a logo. That's right. Just to recap is back and go away. Here we are, folks. It's time for another Just to Recap episode following our 6th week of competitions, this time from Chaparral High School once again in our 13th year of High School Jesters Improv League. And it is time to break down all the fun. Excuse me. It's like I have to stutter during my intro at least once, or it's not Warren. Speaking of not Warren, this guy's not Warren. We already had one Warren this weekend. This guy's Kopy. Kopy, my co-host, come on in. Help me talk some improv from week 6. You look happy to be here. I'm feeling happy to be here. Warren from this past weekend was happy to be here. Seemed like there was a couple of me's running around this past weekend. How about Roman stepping into the spiritual Warren spot? You had to love that.
Roman is the most adult child there is. So that's all I can say.
That's the summary that we're running with. Yeah, I was in the audience for about 5 hours this past weekend, rooting on some great improv and talking to some of the other schools I don't get to see all year. And lo and behold, every chance that I would forget that Roman's there, it's because he's coming at me as Warren, thanking me for my enthusiasm and thanking me for being there and just being overall as nice as he possibly can be, which is really funny, Roman, because I'm actually kind of a jerk, but I appreciate you being so nice with that impression.
He was so, sometimes when you go, players, are you ready? And students don't actually yell out yes.
Absolutely.
Like the amount of times it happened on Saturday where they didn't yell out yes, and then he would go, I love the enthusiasm, trying to be you. And I was just like, come on, Roman.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. It made my mouth curl a little bit into a smile every time he did his bit. But yeah, I hope the rest of the audience learned a little bit about who I am now.
You know what? I owe an apology dating back to our last recap. I didn't even get to say this to you yet. So we talked about in the last recap about how Just to Recap got called out in a show.
Thank you, Elliot of LVA. So classy.
Actually, it wasn't Elliot.
Boo, Elliot. Go home.
It was A-Tech, and it was Emily who got credit for the joke, the beer joke, and that was correct, but it wasn't Elliot that set up Emily. It was Bella. Bella set up Emily, and Bella, I apologize. I should have checked and just to make sure that I had it right, but Bella set that thing up. Emily knocked that thing down. So sorry, Bella, I apologize.
That's amazing. I am sorry to hear that we've misnamed the person who thought of us for Just to Recap, but it was nice seeing Elliot this weekend regardless, because he was all anime and super friendly with me. Got to see a couple other folks who've been in the league for a few years, and thank you, Bella, for thinking of us and calling us out. We are glad somebody's watching Recap. And for those of you who are joining Bella and watching Recap, we're getting ready to bust down week 6 of improv, folks. We've got 11 games to appreciate. 20, or what's that mean? 22 teams went out there and did their thing. And I'll tell you what, guys, playoff improv is going to be great with what I got to see this weekend being any indication. So I can't wait to jump into it and brush up a little bit about how each show blew us away. Any kind of preliminary thoughts outside of Roman before we jump in, Cope?
Yeah, we are at the point of the year where some teams only have one show left, and that's their final show of the season. Actually, half the teams mathematically because of bye weeks. So and some of you of course have 2 left, but we're at that point of the year where playoffs are going to be here in 2 weeks. We are 2 weeks from knowing playoffs. So on this day in 2 weeks, you will know your playoff opponent. Which also means we're closer to awards and we're closer to All-Stars. And All-Stars is kind of neat. Here's a number I can throw at you, Warren.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Is 76 different students have already received an All-Star vote.
76 students, kiddos. That's amazing. And if you're hearing about All-Star for the first time, now is the time to kind of open up the lid and let you peer inside to this really cool opportunity, because every year on Championship Saturday, we have a very special show dedicated to one member of every single team in the league. That's right. Those are our all-stars. And you're like, wait, how do I get that? Do I need to prepare a speech? Do I need to do a monologue? No, don't worry about it. The opposing team coaches that you've been squaring off with every week have been voting for who kind of stands out the most, whoever that is, that week's all-star is among the four of your school's players, kiddos. And at the end of the season, whomever has the most votes amongst those opposing teams' coaches, guess what? You're the all-star. They're not picked by Kopy. They're not picked by me. Generally, they're not picked by any one specific party. This is the coaches that faced against you. So really honorable and humbling compliment that you'll receive if you are the all-star for your school. And it's amazing to know so many kids are getting some consideration this year, Kopy. 79 sounds like a high number to me.
Yeah, so since the very first show of the season this year, there's been votes cast in every single show. So yeah, 76 is our number. Obviously, we're going to get that number will probably grow as we get through the next couple of weeks. But we actually announced that after the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
So 3 weeks from now, we will know every school's all-star.
That's so sick. So many milestones coming. The awards also include some really memorable moments from year in and year out. One of my favorite awards is the Jack Elton Award. We talked about that a few weeks ago when Jack Elton himself came up in conversation. That's a wonderful award given to some student or school or aspect of the league that stands out for reasons completely intangible and so much more beyond the improv. Usually it has something to do with the story of the year, and there always is one. This story this year has got to be about how we've climbed back from the pandemic and been able to put on some consistent improv week in and week out. Who have been some of the schools and students who've made that possible? That could be part of what Jack Elton is all about this year. Of course, last year, one of my students got a Jack Elton Award for the first time in my coaching career. And I'll tell you, man, to me, it honestly felt better than what I imagined winning MVP would feel like. So as far as coaching an MVP, but I've never coached an MVP, so I'll take that too if you want to go ahead and nominate one of my kids over at Del Sol. But anyway, no favoritism, folks. Lots of different games, lots of different awards, lots of different experiences, but there's another milestone on the horizon. Do you want to maybe take a look at that before we jump into shows from a hat?
Yeah, well, week 8, so 2 weeks from yesterday, we will get to our 1000th show, and I know we've kind of dabbled on it all season a little bit, just at least mentioning it. So
yeah,
and I think next week we'll definitely give a full highlight for it. But I mean, I just got some neat stuff planned, and you're going to see some extra people on stage, some really strong performers that we can all learn from. So. And it's kind of the timing of that worked out great. Like if you just want to gear up for playoffs, you get a chance to see some old vets up there doing what they do and have meant a lot to the league over the years. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I'll give you the full breakdown. I'll tell you what to expect for that show. But that's the final week of the season, the 3 o'clock show between West Tech, Shadow Ridge, and now some legends. So.
Yes, Legends of Jesters. I like the ring to it. I want a video game out of it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Now, that being said, I saw a couple of special guests in the lobby of Chaparral this past week. I don't know if we've ever called them out and recap, but it might be a good time to do so because some of these graduating seniors coming up might want to ask the question, where do we go to improv when we are done with Jesters? You have any advice you want to touch on that leads us into that group we saw in the lobby last week?
Yeah, well, and to each their own, depending on what path you want to follow. When Kopy first started improv, I started it with a company called Comedy Sports. Comedy Sports was in the city that I am from, back in Wisconsin, and that was my very first introduction. So there is a Comedy Sports here in Las Vegas now that I still work with. And if you go to a show, you'll see me in the back there doing techie stuff and helping and whatnot. But that's an opportunity for anyone to do more things, after you graduate or so on, or just go see a show and have some fun with the family and whatnot. Of course, all that stuff costs money. Jesters doesn't. But those are opportunities for you. So there
Right.
are comedy sports companies in what are franchises in 32 different cities. I think I could be
You
wrong
would
by
know
that.
better than I, but that sounds like a pretty strong estimate for sure, for sure.
Yeah, they're all over the country, and there's more improv here in town. I mean, there's lots of stuff here, especially in Vegas. But here's the good news: is even if you go away to college, you go to another state, there's improv everywhere. So yeah, if you ever
Mm-hmm.
want to know more of that kind of stuff, just ask us.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've got some advice. Kopy's got some advice. Your coaches have some advice. We all want to see you continue to employ your creativity when you're done with Jesters. Trust us. We always want to support you and your creativity. So go out there, ask for those opportunities. Or if you're really bored, come and coach with us. Yeah, that'd be great. Just saying. All right, moving on. Let's go ahead and jump into shows from a hat, Kopy. I feel like we've done a little bit of waffling around it, and I'm
Yeah.
excited. Kopy and I have several things in common. One of the things we have in common is the possession of a Indiana Jones-esque fedora, which in this case has all of my shows this week. Let's go ahead and reach in and pull out the Noah's Ark, or what is it, the Lost Ark that is our first show. This was a doozy and a fun one because it's the Battle of the Techs. How about A Tech? How about West Tech? How about one stage, 8 students, lots of improv? Let's get it on. How did this matchup between two, I'd say rarely matched up teams get to go to town? How did it go?
Well, we've had a couple of these this year where one coach, two schools got to face each other. Um,
Yes.
so that's always neat. And I know Song brings both of her shirts and changes frequently. This isn't the first time Song schools have faced each other, but I know she's out there trying to show love to both of them as much as she can. So that was a
Yes.
fun start. Um, for me, I mean, there's a couple of different stories. They started with a really strong first line, last line, and Roman gave them some weird, interesting suggestions, everything from Care Bears to Elvis. But I think they really excelled at
No,
them. Yeah, they really excelled and owned them and actually turned
good.
these into scenes. Um, so we started at a
Mm-hmm.
great spot. I mean, they were poking the bear in every category. Like they did blind line, and A-Tech wrote the lines for West Tech's blind line, and then snuck a line in there that would Song likes A-Tech more. And and like just they kept poking the whole show, that that bear, and getting to that point. um on the A-Tech side, we finally got Foley up there. I know Foley's someone that Song
Mm-hmm.
and I as well have both been excited to finally get into a show. So we got
Mm-hmm.
a first timer up there. um Maya kept kind of that strong pace from that first show that Maya was in. We got to see some siblings up there with Maya and
Mm-hmm.
Jacob together. Sean, the 4-year over at ATEC, I think had a really strong performance. And then we had a weird, fun beastie rap at the end. And so they ran through some beastie rap. And then at the end of it, I pulled some more ATECs and West Techs out of the crowd, and then I
Yeah.
made Song lead both teams.
Oh, fun.
So yeah, I made Song just run back and forth and lead for both, which was fun to see her run out of breath. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so this was just feel good, just simply from all of the extenuous circumstances I just gave you. So
Nice.
yeah,
I'm
and
super.
then the show was good to boot.
Yeah, well, I would imagine so. Anytime Song tries to out rhyme herself, it's going to be a memorable day. Very cool. Sounds like a good one and a great way to get started. Let's get our second brush stroke out as we paint us a little Clark and Rift side. This was the one to watch if you're looking at the schedule and going, I wonder which show I'm going to just kind of peer in and take on as my own today. I was definitely super excited to get to see a portion of this show. I had to leave after the 2 team choice games, but boy, 2 teams in the West who can very well go all the way. Certainly when it comes to pure improv. And Clark and Rift side, fun matchup. I know I enjoyed it. What do you think there, Kopy?
Well, if you as whoever you are watching this right now, if you're not thinking about matchups and what schools and what games, and like if that's not going into your head yet, that's okay. But know that going in the playoffs, that's where we're going.
That's
So
right.
Coach Jarrell and Coach Karina for the two schools, they were on top of this immediately. And they picked some games and they really challenged themselves for a
Yeah.
lineup in this particular show. So they
Yeah.
knew that they were facing each other as Riverside are defending champs, and Clark's been so beastly this year. They wanted to challenge themselves as much as they could. So
Yep.
other interesting storylines. So Clark played a first timer, a brand new freshman in this show. So Kieran,
Fun.
welcome to the league. And then both teams had first year seniors on their teams, both strong first year seniors, which drives me
Again, yep.
nuts. But
Yep.
what can you do?
Yep.
From a head-to-head interrogation, which
All right.
we don't ever see in this league.
Head-to-head monkey mirror to combo with that. Two
Monkey
games
mirror.
off of our list of mandatory head-to-heads. That's what makes that especially exciting.
Well, and I like even just the simple choice of the starters. So Margot and Blanca just by themselves, just on stage, starting their own scenes without any help.
Yes.
We rarely ever see that either.
True.
So yeah, we got the 6 o'clock news from Clark, Thought Bubble from Riffside. Like these were two teams that were preparing for the playoffs.
Right. I agree.
That's what they were doing. And it was cool to have new faces in that mix. So when we think of Riffside, we've got some usual suspects, right, that we think about.
Sure.
But having Sophia up there, Sophia, you're so natural at this. Haley is such a goofball and sporadic. Like, I get it. Marlene, I really wanted to see you face off with Margot in that What Are You Doing? So I was happy that world was created because they were creating jokes for each other before they were challenging the What Are You Doings. It was like they added a layer of funny on top before we got to transition to the next part. It was really kind of neat to see.
I'll agree. And for me in the audience, being able to catch as much of the show as I did was a real treat. I agree. The Monkey Mirror was especially bold with how it just started off with one-on-one. I definitely enjoyed 6 o'clock news, or at least the concept of it. It reminded me a little bit of a game that I saw Silverado workshop a few years ago. And it's one that Jarrell found. You know, I asked him about it, like, oh, where'd you get that one? I found it. That's great. And I love seeing Jarrell himself get more confident, if you ask me, as an improv coach, starting to throw out whatever he feels like doing instead of maybe sticking to the older tricks in the book, right? That's kind of fun to see.
He knows what he wants his team to work on, to improve on, and he's actively working on it. So
yeah,
let's get ready to put on the best shows we can because we're 2 weeks away.
Yeah. Oh, so exciting for all of us. And just as exciting is this third show of the day, Shadow Ridge and Arbor View. Very interesting juxtaposition of legacies in the league. We've got one of our newest versus a team that has definitely been cutting their teeth to become one of the lawn mainstays of our league. Always fun to see what Arbor View is up to, and did Shadow Ridge swing for the fences as well?
Yeah, so walking backstage, I was automatically intrigued, getting ready to walk out for this because this had 5 new people, first timers, so first shows in this one, and 4 of them were Arbor View.
Oh, wow.
So I know that is something Ariel has struggled a little bit with Arbor View this year, was the new people having the confidence to get up there and go.
Yep.
So getting 4 of them up there was awesome. That was so cool. And after watching you 4, like, I don't know what you waited so long for.
Really?
Yeah, it was, I mean, you guys were up there, you played Jeopardy. They played Jeopardy in their first show. What shy people get up on stage and play Jeopardy? The ultimate, the ultimate, I need to think for myself and be independent game.
True.
So that was really neat to see. And then on Shadow Ridge's side, Robert, I mean, you made that look easy for your first time. And then this was neat. So Belle and Jordan and Kason, who I've talked about in these recaps about how strong they are. I got to see them together is what made me excited. I think this is the first time the 3 have been in the show together. Because Belle, to me, man, you're sending me for a loop each week. You are so strong on stage. Jordan, you are so awkwardly funny. You just have that weird stagger, and stoic way of delivering stuff. Jordan P, excuse me. And Kason before the show says to me, "Hey, you said I was funny in the recaps."
Thank you.
Yes, I did, Kason, and I'll say it again. You are just as much random as Jordan P. This was fun. This was cool to be a part of. I was intrigued top to bottom on this one.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Intriguing is a nice thing to feel as we get closer to playoffs because it makes us wanting more. Thanks for watching the recaps, Kason. That's really awesome. We'll continue to give you compliments now. Go, Kason. Next, it is Desert Oasis versus Bonanza. Here's a high energy team, or at least I think of them that way when you look at Bonanza. And Desert Oasis has been just getting stronger and stronger footing week by week. They've got a great coach in Corey. So great improv mind at the helm, taking on a great improv mind at the helm in Tirza, another wonderful former league MVP who can go, 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 go. And it's starting to show in how Bonanza plays. I bet this played well.
It did.
Nice.
And they know it. I think the best story on this one is our performers. I know on the Desert Oasis side, I've been talking about Zai each week.
Yes.
And that comfort and that growth. And it's so cool. It's so neat to see where that comfort is. And even in the simplest category, you might not think this, but sometimes just saying one quick line of dialogue, even just saying the line, "I don't know," there's a way you can say that to where you sound confident and strong and poised. So everything that Zai is doing is taking that concrete with it, is taking that strength, even if it's the smallest contribution. So that's what I'm really liking about watching Zai right now. This Cameron, I think this is your best show of the year, man. I loved watching your Peter Parker Peter with Aiden from Bonanza. Cameron, you're kind of a wild child. Like that's a really good description of you, I think, as a performer. But man, you did all sorts of stuff in this particular show. So I was happy about that. And then Bonanza, you kind of have a good expectation for who's getting up there. So you have your same four usual suspects that have been up there most of the year, and you all know how to produce. So that inner monologue, your silly inner monologue of husband, or no, it was stepmom and Mona laying on the floor, and it would you had several of those where I was just like, hey, we're telling a story.
Yes.
Which is something I mentioned to Coach Tirza, and then I watched it, I went, okay, cool, this is cool. So yeah, I think the people in this particular show is what made me intrigued in this one.
Yeah, that's a great reason. Both of those schools are starting to understand how they perform and who they are in the process. And a little snippet of each of their intellects are coming out in the way they play. And when you start seeing the calculation behind the decision making, that's when you know you've got real wood on the fire, so to speak. So very, very cool. Another playoff matchup maybe waiting to happen. I'm not sleeping on either of those teams, but I will be sleeping pretty soon after we're done with this. I'm not going to lie. I bet you could still use some catch up on sleep. But Centennial and Cheyenne were not sleepy this weekend. They came out playing hard. I remember seeing a few moments of this. Team Adorable is always a pleasure to interact with. They really are so approachable and fun and kind. And then across from them is Cheyenne, who you talked about, wild children in the previous reference to that show. I feel like Cheyenne's a big old pack of wild children. So it could be really fun sometimes to watch these two teams go, this team go head to head with almost anybody in the league. So I bet it kept going with this specific matchup. How did they do? Centennial and Cheyenne.
I had this week especially, and there's a lot of thoughts that go through my mind as we go through the seasons about recognition awards and whatnot. And a lot of times I go, man, if we had that award, how would that look? So my brain would always think of like comeback player of the year, kind of an award, which is a true sports award.
Yeah.
Right. And now it's been the justification of it. It took us 10 years to get the Rookie of the Year award added to the Jesters Awards.
Right.
So it's going to take a little bit more than just me going, ooh. But Kelly really stands out to me for Cheyenne, for
Yep.
comeback player.
Yep.
You're loving the toilet scene. Like, oh my goodness. It no, like no one, just the way
You
that you
can't
guys
coach that.
yeah, and Roman was scared to take that suggestion. The suggestion was a female plumber installing a toilet in a male restroom. And Roman was thinking the worst of it, which is fine. Just I don't want to take that in case we get a bunch of poop jokes and it's inappropriate. But I was like, come on, let's just take it.
Yeah,
I thought it was an hilarious premise, and I thought they delivered
Sure.
on it. So
good.
yeah.
I mean, that would take a lot of complex thinking. I'm sitting here thinking, what would I do with that? You know, and I'd have to play up my girliness, and I'd have to play up the manliness of the John. So it's a lot of involved thinking for this specific type of game. So that was probably a lot of fun to watch those pins fall down.
Yeah, and I think it was Grace that initiated the toilet. And Grace, you're a little powerhouse. Like, I don't know if you realize that, but you add a lot of power to this particular group. And then Alexa, before the show, I came up to say hi to everyone as we were getting ready to walk out. Alexa says, "You remember my name?" I was like, "Yeah, that's my magical power." Of course, I remembered your name.
That and post male mattern baldness or whatever.
Yeah, that too. So yeah, there was a lot in this one. They played a really fun I Can Do That Better.
Yes.
I ended up adding myself as an imaginary glass of milk in the scene, merely to just allow them to expand where their ideas were. And they took that and ran with it. And like, they just found so many ways to now add and build. And these two teams worked really well together. This was a fun one to see. On the Centennial side, Jasmine, you've been kind of powerhousing it all year for Centennial. Gemma, you're so comfortable and happy on stage. Like I have a feeling that when you graduate, Gemma, you're truly going to miss the stage, and we will miss you as well. But thank goodness you're a junior. Anaya's first show. Ellie keeps getting more comfortable. Yeah, this was a fun one.
Yeah, good. Fun to be found in every crevice at Chaparral this weekend so far. And here's another crevice for us to peek into. We've got Secta and Valley. Two long-standing schools in our league, some of the originals, if I'm not mistaken. Two teams close to my heart once again, my alma mater, and the original team I ever coached. Lots of fun to be had when these two teams link up, I imagine, because they have a great blend of young talent and great veterans. What do you think?
I had a lot of fun playing some scenes from a hat with these two.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, their ideas were just I think their idea, what they were doing with their ideas was they were getting their ideas out before they were thinking about their ideas, which added just that extra layer of genuine comedy and genuine fun. So we were kind of we were laughing, just trying to get the ideas out, which is something I've spoken explicitly about Ava at Secta about her talents to do that. But I think this was kind of like everybody kind of doing that same scenario. Anton from Secta, your dual Western splits that you did, so funny. That whole game, let alone this whole show, this was a strong performance, I think, by both. And I had a really interesting conversation with Valley afterwards about presentation. Because Gio asked me if I could give a note or two, and always happy to do so, especially at the end of the day when I've got that second to do that. We talked about presentation, and I think the analogy that I was trying to show or give to them was talking about just movies. So with movies, there's lights, there's cameras, there's effects, there's explosions, there's whatever. Why is Avengers the top whatever movie there ever was? It's because of all of those things. All those things are presentation. And yes, you have to have a story underneath it, but sometimes where you stand on stage, that's a part of presentation.
True.
That's a part of engaging someone to watch you and really getting more out of that moment. And I think the coolest thing that came out of that conversation was just simply saying, sometimes even nervous energy can be broken simply by taking a step or saying one word. All you need to do is make that effort, and that's to do with presentation. So, and what's cool is their coach is Gio,
Right.
whose presentation is better than that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, Dallas, you're killing it on stage. Isabella asked me after the show, "Am I improving?" I'm like, oh my God, Isabella,
Aww.
in your 4th year. That's
Yeah.
such a cool position to be in. You
Sure.
might not even realize that, Izzy, but this league's only better because you've been around this long. So
Agreed. Yep.
yeah,
Good. Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
this was a fun way to end the day. This is our last show.
Yeah. Oh man, that does feel like a good, feel good conclusion, most definitely. And I love those notes on presentation. I think we'll touch on that a little later when we get to the show that I was a part of this past week. Because there's some cool presentational choices in that show too. Oh, well, what do you know? What a perfect draw.
Oh, are we
How
there?
about some Del Sol and some Silverado? Another 8 a.m. show for my Dragons. I would like to say on recording that they deserve a little bit of a high five because you've given them more 8 a.m. shows than any other team. I know that's my fault too. And they've been so kind to show up in spades for me every weekend at 8 a.m. saying, okay, Coach Warren, we'll do some improv. And one thing that really stood out to me, especially going back to that note about presentation, was Nathan over at Silverado in this show, who is definitely their de facto like spiritual leader, right? As a student. Um, and and he was doing this simple movement across the stage so often in this show that I just couldn't help but feel like it helped their entire performance feel like it was more of a production and less of an improv show. Just that simple calculated pass across the stage over and over again just made it feel like it was blocking in a play instead of, just breaking up stagnant energy in an improv scene. And I complimented on them after the game because I think it just helped all of them be comfortable and in the pocket. Really good energy around that Silverado team. You better say something nice about Del Sol now.
I'm not allowed to say anything about Silverado.
I'm just kidding. Go for it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I had a quick little sidebar with Roman during the show because of dating app. So
Yeah.
Nathan's mom, Nathan from Silverado,
Oh,
got up for, what's funny?
she's funny.
Well,
She's funny.
that too. I'm going to answer this while we're recording.
All right.
Coach Gio, I'm still recording, and I just talked about you.
Hi,
So
Gio.
Warren says hi. Talk about presentation.
There you go.
So let me finish this, and I will call you back.
Bye,
All right.
Gio. Tell him I said bye, Kopy.
Gio says you're all cool. Okay.
Aw.
Talk to you
Thanks,
later.
Gio. You have great hair.
Bye. Okay, so you played a game of dating app where Nathan's mom was the app swiper.
Talk about simple and funny too. Oh my God.
Well, so just a note that I gave to Roman because we were just trying to make the right choices.
Okay.
Is I don't like necessarily putting an adult in that chair.
Right.
Simply because anyone's brain can take this in any weird way, right?
Ah.
But Roman, we took mom, we got mom up there, and it worked beautifully.
God,
Like
so funny.
that was hilarious. And then even the play from between Nathan and mom in that particular game just added so much extra fun. And that's part of that is just the willingness. That's presentation, man.
Oh yeah.
So on the first go, I don't know if you noticed this, like mom swiped Nathan off right away. Nathan
Okay.
didn't get a chance to speak. And then when Nathan went back into the line, I went over to Nathan. I said, Nathan, you're going to have to like deliver it quick because your mom's not going to give you any room. And he goes, okay, yeah, I got it. And he came out so strong. He didn't allow her to swipe. Like she had to listen to him because of that presentation and how strong he came out with it. But I mean, just that whole game was presentation. The quicker those swipes were, the stronger you guys got. I mean, I just have visualizations in my head of Sienna doing the crawly character-y, like, right?
Yes.
Just good visuals. This was just such a fun game.
Yeah. Agreed with you. Sienna and Natalya, my two rookies this week. So proud of you to see you in your first show. You both did me so proud. Sienna's got a great brain for storytelling and justifying and being in the moment. Like she's definitely still there under all of the decisions she makes in improv, but still has the capability to be silly. And Natalia has got the funny factor. She's got that little twinge in her brain that says, well, it'll be funny if I do this. And she does it. And she doesn't shy away from any of those moments. And it really helped our team sing a little bit this year or this week, especially. So kudos to both my rookies. And I do want to say, while we're touching on it, I enjoyed the mime Sienna was doing right off the bat.
Right.
It was one of those things where it was such a simple, small choice, and I could tell we were in for a good game because mom was taking every little thing that the kids were doing and reacting so big and impulsively to it that it was funny no matter what. And I couldn't help but look at the kids and go like, this is what you want. This is where everything's funny. Just do whatever. And I could tell, man, such fun in that game. Lots of great energy. Oh. And my rookies, last thing, I swear, I apologize. I'm so sorry. My rookies weren't afraid to play sideline debate. We did not plan on playing it. We came in. Isaac said, what about sideline? And I said, I'll see. And they were like, sure, why not? And that is one of my favorite things about my Del Sol kids this year. No one's afraid to play anything. So thank you.
I want to give a big highlight because this was such a good moment. So first off, Roman didn't give you a suggestion in deleted scenes.
No, he did not.
And when Roman came back, I said, hey, you missed this thing. And he's like, oh crap. And his brain just didn't. But boy, did they create some weird alien-y Cthulhu, whatever it was.
Yeah,
out of the
thank
gate.
You. Nice.
Right. But what made that even better was after the first deleted scene, which I'm 99% sure was Shrek.
Yep.
Ghost on that chair reacting to the deleted scene was so funny. Like it was so perfect. That was definitely one of maybe the best moments in an improv game the entire day. So really, really good.
And I will and that for deleted scenes, which is, first time my kids had played that this year, and just the four of them. Another kudos to my rookies for being like, yep, we'll touch anything, whatever. They wanted to do those plays themselves. One big shout out though to Nathan on this one, because they had built a scene with 3 characters in it for that Shrek scene, and one of them was a dragon. And goodness gracious me, if I didn't see a dragon, I was going to really burst a fuse. So I looked over at Nathan from the audience and I said, hey, dragon. And thank goodness. And he came to do what he needed to do. Great pop for the game.
Right. Well, and that dragon is what put Ghost on that chair. So
bam.
It was. So there's a lot of moments to be proud of in this show for sure.
Yeah, two different teams, 2 different approaches, a simplistic and more complex approach, and it made some really good back and forth improv. I had a blast. Thank you, Silverado, for the show. Good friends of ours, very talented coach and Coach Isaac. Hey, Silverado, tell your coach to go try out for Second City, okay? Make sure he knows you believe in him. Next, El Dorado, Sunrise Mountain, the matchup of the week, so says I. This one could be fun because both of these teams are burgeoning. They're growing. They're getting new legs under them. They have the strength to show one another that they can take the next step forward. But did they show you, Kopy, of what they're truly capable of?
All right, so I'm probably going to get the sequence of events wrong, but this is how I think I remember it. Roman was getting a suggestion for the game of what for Sunrise, and Corey, who's our stage manager, Corey, coach of El Dorado, does Oasis. Corey was sitting in the audience, and Corey's parents were also there. So Corey was sitting by her parents. Whatever the prompt was Roman gave, I forget what the prompt was, but Corey kept yelling out someone donating their organs as the suggestion. And then Corey kept saying it loud. No one's louder than Corey, except maybe Ariel. Right. Except maybe Ariel. And then Corey's dad then says nice and loud next to Corey, someone donating their organs. Ooh, like playing an organ.
Sure.
And then Corey looks at dad and then kind of smiles and then shouts it back out. someone playing an organ made out of organs.
Oh no.
So Roman took it, and then Roman says, okay, your suggestion is someone playing an organ made out of organs in Oregon.
Yes, I was waiting for that.
So
why not?
Just to watch that sequence of events is it's what improv is. Like that's
right.
That's what improv is, and we didn't even get into the game yet.
That's almost a what in and of itself. Oh, right. You're losing your organs. What? Oh, I can't hear your organ. What? I'm moving to Oregon.
Yep.
That's great. I love it.
What? And then to even dive into these games, Zach and Miriam at Sunrise have been so consistent in everything they've done this year. They know how to play what. They understand the formula to it. And if you don't know there's a formula to it, ask your coach. There's a formula to it.
Yep.
Watching Eldorado's Jeopardy, Janice from the basement, or Janice from your mom's basement. Such a silly, perfect character to play. We got their machines was a little ridiculous with their vacuums.
Oh boy. But did they make robot noises?
Not as many boops and beeps as there could have been.
Boop. We need my boops. I need my beeps. I need my boops and beeps.
Yes, we do. Agreed. Right. But silliness was there top to bottom anyway.
And that's If you can't have boops and beeps, we got to at least have silliness, kids.
Right.
Good job. And Zach has been a name you've brought up a lot this year. Really been somebody who's gained momentum. And it's always nice to see when a school like Sunrise Mountain has somebody to build around. So that's exciting. Is there somebody over there at the at El Dorado who's kind of a focal point?
Zach's. There's Zach's at both schools. yeah, it's the two Zachs. So yeah,
I totally planned that, y'all. Look how wise I am. All right, Zach's, keep it up. Zach attack all across the East. Oh, and speaking of East Tech was on stage this week. They didn't have a bye. Neither did their opponents, who were off last week. One of my favorite schools to watch, maybe because of their flaming hot, fire red, on fire, crazy #1 draft pick kind of guy in Evan Hardy. If you're not picking Evan Hardy first for your kickball team, then you should at least pick him first for your improv team. I'm just saying that. Every time I watch Evan do stuff this year, it leaves my jaw on the floor. How did this one shake down as two teams who definitely are capable of turning it on went head to head? Basic and East Tech.
Don't give Evan more things to do that pulls him away from improv, because that boy does so many things.
Does he? Yeah.
And I'm sure his choir trip's coming, and we're going to miss him in the playoffs somewhere, because that's what Evan does. But anyway, back to the show.
God forbid.
There was fun from the top to the bottom. We had another dating app in this one. We had Battleship, we had 185, Survivor, Jeopardy.
Yeah, super fun lineup.
Aaliyah's Jeopardy character of Hawk, and I don't mean hawk like a hawk in the sky. I mean hawk like I'm gonna hawk a loogie.
Yeah.
Aaliyah's character just what's your name? Hawk. Just so Johnny Eyebrow was a character. There was fun top to bottom. So first off, East Tech, your Survivor, like such a good setup. Connor, you made me also think of another award, like most intense person ever award.
Wow.
Like if there's a way to create one, because no one knows how to start a fire like you know how to start. And then you got to play in the show with your sister, which was really cool. So to watch you guys do the spinny tornado thing in Survivor, it's so good. Like so of course you two made it to the final two in Survivor. Of course you did. Camden, I think, got a lot more strength out of you in this one, so that's showing growth and improvement. And Hunter, you've been around for a minute, so you're kind of cool hand Luke every time you do something. Joseph keeping that strength up on the basic side, got Allie in another show, and then Evan, man, just that. Evan showed you how to deliver a joke in 185. It's not just how clever, whatever your idea is, it's how to deliver the joke. And I'm giving Evan that compliment because we know that Connor was on the other side for East Tech, who's
Yes.
just all pizzazz, and Connor
Yeah.
knew how to tell jokes.
Right.
Connor had no problem doing it, but man, Evan's just got this
Cadence.
yeah, it's so funny.
He's just well practiced at it. He knows how to lay down his type of comedy like you're spreading butter across a piece of toast. And that's his bread and butter at this point.
Right.
It's really cool to see. He's comfortable with who he is. He's comfortable with what he presents. He's not selfish. He still doesn't take away from the other people around him generally. He just knows how to accent every moment with precisely what it needs. Yikes, look out. And I may regret this because the playoffs are coming and the East Tech boys are always somehow across the stage from Del Sol at some point, and girls for that matter. Don't, excuse me, boys and girls. I always think of them as the boys because of the Blazers. Just
because the initial East Tech crew was all boys.
And boy, were they strong. Yeah.
Right.
And I might shoot myself in the foot, but there is something in that Connor kid and his energy. He does elevate a lot of moments, just the way you're talking about, like you said, lots of pizzazz. Connor, if you could take a little bit of that cool hand Luke mentality, that idea that you can whip it out at any time and find a reason for it, if you can employ that with your pizzazz, young man, you are totally just as powerful up there as anybody else I've seen this year. I really like Connor. And isn't there an Anthony on that team, East Tech? Am I thinking of an Anthony from week one?
Yep. So you remember that week one show? Anthony was in that one, wasn't in this one,
right?
But
so yeah, not tight end, but I'm just saying East Tech's got the pieces. So if any of you are out there thinking East Tech is taking naps, they're not. So be careful. More improv. This is SV squared, buddy. You know where I'm going with this. SV squared. Putting on either side of the versus stage, we've got Spring Valley and we've got Sierra Vista. Get what I mean? SV squared.
So SV squared was actually, that joke made it into the show.
I'm so unoriginal, aren't I?
Well, so they played a game of What Are You Doing, and Archer and Milan got paired up, and their letters that they were given from Roman was SV. So naturally, two of their What Are You Doings was Spring Valley and Sierra Vista. So they had to be endowed with Spring Valley and Sierra Vista. So fun. Yeah, for sure. But there were several really just interesting, fun ways of going about this. They also played Monkey Mirror, first off. I liked their weird suggestions that they got out of the gate, the middle of the ocean and being in a palace. I liked the contrast of seeing what they were able to do with that. Also had 185 in this particular show, and they were not necessarily shy about going out. They all went for it. I felt two very evenly matched teams here. That's what I saw when I watched these two. I have to talk about party quirks for a second, because there was some veteran stuff going on in this from more rookies than veterans. So Theodore was the party host, which means the host doesn't know the suggestions, and then you give the clues and the quirks or whatever to the other players. So I thought Roman gave way too hard of suggestions. I was like, there's no way they're getting any of these. So when the game started, the other players from Spring Valley did a good job of trying to give hints at their really difficult suggestions, but like only in pieces, right? Because it was just too hard to get them all out there. Somehow Theodore rocked out the first two suggestions almost perfectly, like to the point where my mouth was literally like, I can't believe you did this. Ariel caught me with my mouth open, like in amazement, and started making fun of me. I was like, why are you making fun of me? That was awesome. So on the third one, Theodore was struggling on the last one. Okay. The team came back. The two that had already left the scene came back into the scene to help so that Theodore could get to that final suggestion.
Just, you want to do it at that point for sure.
Right, but how often do we really actually see that happen in that scenario? So really good way of getting to that point, Spring Valley. I was beyond impressed. But then on the other side, we got to see another team choice press conference.
Oh,
So
geez.
yeah, so
Wow.
Sierra Vista, Braxton, of course, was the one answering the questions at the press conference, and Braxton's too smart for that. Braxton was just messing with us half the time.
That's
So
good. That's
yeah,
good. Another way to make the game more entertaining.
yes, you knew it was Space Mountain, Braxton. You knew.
That's the meta game. You know, we've seen it a little bit out there. We've hinted at it. It's always the intention of doing things wrong, being confident in your incorrectness. That's where a lot of the comedy is, guys. So that's really cool that they would kind of dance around the topic and make them sweat a little bit longer. The example before that, what was the game that you discussed before Space
Party,
Mountain?
Party Quirks.
Party Quirks, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite games, honestly, only because it takes the complexity of a guessing game and links it to the kind of comfort place that emotional party gives, you know.
Right.
But one thing I'll say about that is that 9 times out of 10, when we play this in this league, kiddos, Kopy's finding his way into that game by the end of it, thinking of the easiest lob he can throw as a character to get this person to guess the last item. So it's wonderful to see the students be able to know when that's needed and hop in and take the reins. So kudos not having Kopy step in. Good job.
We're
Um,
gonna talk a little bit more about your Party Quirks again in a minute or two after this last show. So
yeah, it
yeah, we're
has
gonna circle back.
definitely a good idea. Speaking of this last show, it is nigh, it is upon us, and it is LVA versus Desert. Oh, no, Desert Pines. Excuse me. The other desert. You know, they're so similar, Pines and Oases. But it's kind of hard to be similar to LVA with how they're gelling this year. Fun to see the energy in this show. I got my eyes on Desert Pines for more than one reason, and it was so nice to see Sarah Miller, one of my favorite students in our league. I'm not biased. I'm just a fan of excellent energy, and Sarah's got it, and it's shown in this game. You know, Elliot across the stage from that team is just as likable for LVA, and he really brings a lot of that energy full circle for them. Two teams with plenty to play for. How did they do together in your mind, Kopy?
The chemistry just hasn't stopped, I think, on the LVA side.
Yeah,
I think they've got so much comfort there. For me, this was Bram's show. I really enjoyed what Bram did for LVA.
Bram.
Yep. I love that. I love that name for you. I don't even know
Bram.
what I'd love to ask where that even comes from. Um, I think Leora fit in perfectly. Leora kind of came in late, didn't do the first couple of shows with LVA, but then kind of came in. I think you're the perfect fit in there, and Paige, you have settled in there next to Elliot so well. I like how you two bounce off each other for sure. On the Desert Pines side, Haley, like I don't know if you understand the value you add to your group. And I think you've always been very intelligent. So I remember you pre-COVID, and what you were able to do for your particular group. And man, if you don't add substance and context, and it just, and sometimes in the simplest way, and how every team needs that. So yeah, Haley, you're doing some great stuff. Jose, I love you getting in your first show, man. The bravery to stand up there next to that particular group. And
Yeah,
Monty, you're new this year, but man, are you strong. You just
right.
so much confidence you have. Maybe more than you need even. So
Give that back. I need
yeah,
some. I have to go to the DMV tomorrow.
I uh I love their 9 out of 10. For whatever reason, we got stuck in this circular numbers conversation. 9 out of 10,
I
and
see.
Elliot's shirt got pulled into it with the 12 and the 13, and um, it's nice when you can find something and then find all the ways to find comedy around the one thing.
Sure.
And we found a lot of comedy in numbers. So go figure. You made accountants happy everywhere. Um,
Nice. That was a good joke, Kopy.
Thanks.
Wow.
I probably stole it from one of them because they made every joke about numbers they could have.
Oh, well, they're gonna abacus you out then.
Yeah,
Get it?
absolutely.
Abacus? That's the thing that the beads. Okay.
I get it.
Accountants would get that. So let me calculate this question for you then. I was just trying to use a calculator pun. I will divide by 0 and just exit out of this error. Anyway, fun show, guys. I was excited to watch y'all do your thing. I'm excited to work a little bit with Desert Pines this upcoming week. Why? Because I get to. And I think it was great to see Jose. You had mentioned him before. I couldn't tell it was his first show. So big compliment to him on that. And these two teams played well together, no doubt. It's fun to kind of end the recap on this as we look to the future for more week 7 improv on the way next week.
And ending it on Desert Pines because we're going to be at Desert Pines next week. So
how perfect.
There you go.
Continued to go full circle. Awesome. So with the shows from a hat broken down and the fedora hung up, I quickly realized fedoras and headphones don't mix. We get to move on to our next segment, one of our favorites. It's our props. Props is when we discuss exactly what stood out to us, what uplifted the week, what was stronger, whether it was a student or a school or a game or a circumstance or a staff member or that one game of to-do rap that nobody remembers. So we'll talk a little bit about what was really memorable to you this week, Kopy. What are your 3 props, the things that we want to uplift the most this week?
Props always tend to follow these themes, and I don't think we've sold it short at this point. So
nope.
I'm going to start with prop number 1, going to Nathan from Silverado.
Yeah, absolutely.
He deserves it. A 4-year player who plays like it, and had every reason to shine this week. I mean,
so good.
Yeah, a lot of belly laughs, a lot of just genuinely really good moments, and
he had Cameron Coleman vibes for me this week.
Yeah. And that's a name that a lot of you might not know, but Cameron was huge for this league. And you talked about the Eagle thing, and we talked about this off camera, but even just the coin toss, like his way of doing Coach Enrique.
So funny.
I don't know if I've ever seen Enrique go red before. And I used to be Enrique's coach. So like I don't think I've ever seen him go red before. Like
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And Nathan, believable. He got him. Like he got him.
Yeah.
So good.
So yeah, Nathan, you definitely deserve the props this week. You were a rock star up there. So you're definitely number 1.
Yeah, thanks for that show. I'm glad some of my students got to watch you do that, Nathan, because man, you definitely showed when we tell kids go out there and be smooth, be yourself, be cool, be comfortable, be confident. Almost any word you plug in there to try to be supportive, you did that in your show this past weekend. So channel that attitude, channel that approach. And man, I was really pleased to see that. It was a fun Silverado show across from Del Sol this week. Prop number 2, Kopy.
Prop number 2's got to go to Margot from Riffside.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about Margot when we get to Riffside about their abilities to find just weird ways to accent things.
Yeah. Always making the different decision.
Right. And this week, I know that she's making an active effort to try and kind of own moments like we've talked about today. Nice. And just sit in a moment, because I think her natural tendency is to accentuate moments rather than just sit in it. And that monkey mirror that you mentioned, just watching Margot and Blanca just set that up for their teams, that takes a lot. That's hard. Like that's hard to do.
Yeah.
So just the amount of moments that were created, even the musty carpet in Monkey Mirror was so funny.
So funny.
Right?
Yep. Thought Bubble had a great moment in it too. Bloop, bloop,
the nose.
Bloop, bloop. Yeah. And then said something simple. It was maybe the second Thought Bubble, and it just got me perfect. Yeah.
Thought Bubble was a couple of different scenes layered on top of each other, but they created that, and a lot of that did come from Margot. Now, and even to say that, I would say Margot's team this week was really strong. Yeah, there were 2 rookies as far as rookies this year, but man, those girls could play. So yeah, it's time to wave this flag.
This flag, the Margot flag.
Yep.
Way to go, Margot. You deserve it. And that being said, I will say, fun thought. We talked a lot about inner monologue last week. Thought Bubble, especially from that team at Riffside this week, looked a lot like reverse inner monologue,
right?
In a way, which kudos to that, because in Thought Bubble, if you think about it, at least for me, I don't think of it as the game that has the same kind of layers as a inner monologue. And that game this past weekend made me think elsewise. So really, really top notch choice there, Kopy. I bet your third one's got to be a doozy too. There's got to be, with this third prop, there's got to be a chance that you're going to set the world on fire, okay? Or that it's a fireball, or that it's definitely above and beyond any expectation. It's got to be a prop going to the A1 steak sauce of the day.
Well, then it has to be Billy Joel.
Oh! I don't know Piano Man off the top of my head, but it makes me wish I did.
Well, then Warren didn't start the fire. All right.
Oh, no. What have I done? I thought that was a Bruce Springsteen.
That's Billy Joel.
You start the fire. Oh, okay. Just talk to me.
Isn't
Who's the
that
third
Billy
prop,
Joel?
Cope?
It's going to go to Evan from Basic.
That's right. He's the fire burner. He's the one right now I'm talking up. Tell me why Evan earned it this week.
I mean, you know, it's very similar to what we just talked about with Nathan and Marco. Just knowing how to take advantage of these moments and own them, and just make us relate on a different level. And that's what Evan did. Johnny Eyebrows to your 185s. Heck, I pulled Evan out to beatbox for the West Tech A-Tech show.
Nice.
And even the confidence in his beatbox is just like, woof, look at you. So
nice.
Evan gave me like, what can't you do vibes in this particular show. So yeah, Evan's got to be number 3 this week.
What an asset for the stage, Evan Hardy. Just keep doing what you're doing. And, you know, bringing it full circle, we talked about the All-Star show starting off. This is the first time I think you've given props to all individual students this year. And if it's not, I want to just bypass my suggestion that it was and say, think of that all-star team. Imagine if they came together and got to do a show together at the end of the year as their team's all-stars, man. A Nathan, Maddie, Evans show. I'm watching that 12 times.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that you can see behind me, this is an all-star show.
Right.
So this was Haley Reno from Tuacahn.
Beautiful.
This was Dion from Sunrise.
Oh, he's so funny.
Yeah, East Tech, Cheyenne, Mojave. So this was an all-star show. You can see almost 20 students there. They're playing Beastie Rap actually in that picture. So,
wow.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about the All-Star show is it gives the chance for students who wouldn't normally share the stage to finally meet at the time when they should be most confident in who they are. There's always some awesome fireworks. So let's move on to our next segment, because I know we've run long again. We're probably about an hour now. So just some advice, Kopy. I need to ask just some advice, because a couple of really fun improv games made their debut appearances this past week, or at least in my recollection. We had Party Quirks. You mentioned it a lot with that specific matchup earlier in our talks. And Interrogation also showed up. These are guessing games that are a little different from your typical style, not purely based out of miming, actually allow a lot of language if you think about it. So let's talk about those games, those guessing games with a little bit more going on than just gibberish and pantomime. Just some advice. How do we make those games the best they can be?
Well, we've kind of said this without explaining it in this way in these recaps.
Sure.
So in a guessing game, yeah, we want to guess something, but we also want to entertain and make it fun and laugh at what we're doing and enjoy these moments. So I think sometimes that's what gets forgotten. It turns into this guessing fever, kind of like Six Things in pantomime. Right. So we get so focused on trying to actually give the clue that we're not focusing on that, oh yeah, there's people watching us. So how to create characters, how to make them memorable and bring them back in. And Warren talked about how I'll walk in with some kind of character and give you a loft or something to actually take. That's what's so important. So I praise Spring Valley on how you did your Party Quirks, because those were some veteran moves. But even just full circle, who were we in these scenes? What were we feeling? What were we going through? What stories were we telling? That's going to make it 10 times better than anything else that we do. Those interrogations, we got to see 2 different interrogations this week. And it was Margot from Ripside that pulled out Margot's partner in interrogation was Randall the Bird. That
Oh,
was the co-detective, and got such a pop out of the fact that the other detective was a bird. Um,
that's great.
and then now you've got a setup. Like, what's
Mhm.
wrong with a bird being a detective? I mean,
What?
everyone loves Disney, right? I mean, Disney's done it 1,000 times.
Amen.
So yeah, create those characters. Let's have some fun with what we're doing. I know that's actually why Riffside and Clark picked it. This was because they wanted to work on developing characters and making sure
Mhm.
that those have a place in some of these more difficult games. So let's learn from them, who've been doing really well all year.
Yeah, and another game that's been quietly used throughout the year that fits into this category by far, and another one that may be making more appearances and gesture shows in the future, Press Conference.
Mhm.
Same concept, right? Committing to the character that you have no idea who they really are, just like an interrogation. You don't know what your criminal activity was, but you're going to pretend like you do. Press conference, you don't know who you are behind that podium, but if you behave to be somebody and you commit to it, the audience is automatically going to laugh half the game because you're so way off, most likely, who you actually are or why you actually committed the murder, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So very fun stuff. Great advice. Thank you for that. Just some advice. And guys, full commitment to being wrong. We continue to say it actually works, and it certainly does. The irony is that in theater, you're really good when you know every single one of your lines by heart and how to make every step as you've planned. And it's just as impressive in improv when you can fly by the seat of your pants just as committedly, right? So two sides of the opposite, or sorry, two opposite sides of the same coin. How about we talk about your challenge, Kopy? Not everything was flawless this week. Not everything felt like, oh, we're setting the world on fire like Evan Hardy. There were moments where maybe we could have learned how to do something a little bit more, a little bit beyond, a little bit better, as a whole, as a league as a whole. So, Kopy, what's your challenge this week? Instead of a game that we'll be playing in the last minute because we have an extra 5 minutes on our clock, what is your challenge to all of our teams to improve upon so that next week our entire day of improv shows could be a little bit more enjoyable?
Well, most of you aren't going to have an Arbor View week where you have 4 new people next week. Um,
Right.
so I highly doubt that scenario is going to play itself out. So I hope that nobody's getting complacent. Like, I hope no one in the league is going, man, I'm pretty darn good at this and I'm fine and I don't need to know more.
Unless you're Evan
Uh,
Hardy.
so what I want you to do this week is I want you to work on something tough. Work on something that you struggle with. Don't look at a game and go, I don't know how to do this.
Mm,
Um, I know I had a moment in talking to Sophia from Riffside,
right.
just kind of like briefly explaining a game like on the fly. And
Hmm.
Sophia kind of had this, but man, Sophia's just a natural. Like, Sophia could really do anything. So if there's a game that makes you go, I want you to try and tackle it. I want you to see if you can improve on it. I could just very blanketly say to anyone, probably any of your pantomime games probably fit in that category. Your to-do rep raps, your beastie raps. So tackle some tough stuff, because come playoffs, it might be your saving grace if you can improve on those things. Because who knows what the playoffs are going to bring for you. So
Exactly. You
go
have
practice your tough stuff.
You've got to be ready for everything, kiddos. And the biggest reason why is because we as coaches are going to try to challenge you anyway. We get to these playoffs and we are like, hey, coach, what do you want to do? And the other coach goes, coach, I really want to make a great show. Well, what do? We do something different. Yeah, let's throw them curveballs they're not ready for. We want to do that. Why? Because we want to watch you be able to float and fly anyway. So be ready for the fact that we don't want you to be bored yet. We want you to be challenging yourselves. And so go out there and seek out those games you don't know how to make work and help us help you figure out how to make them work. That's what we're here for, right?
Mhm.
I can't tell you, it's been really refreshing. I've got plenty of schools in this culture who are like, I hate to do rap, or I hate 9 out of 10, or I hate this, I hate that. I'm not playing hype.
Yep.
Now, truth be told, we should never play hype. Yikes. But point is go out there, grab those games and just do it because you deserve it. Tackle the challenges you think you can overcome. That's what Jesters is all about for sure. Underneath making people laugh. So that's our almost final segment of our week, but we've got one more for you before we call it a night, and it's our Kopy question. This is when I come up with a little something something to throw at Kopy and to try to get the best answer I can out of him. We talked a little bit about something more personal last week, but generally we've been talking a lot of improv. I'm going to meet in the middle. This is a little personal to you, Kopy, but it's all about improv. What games do you kind of wish the league would kind of own and make a bigger part of weekly lineups? What games do you like to see? Which ones make you laugh reliably?
Um,
Give me
you know,
5 of them. I think you
yeah,
can give me
so
5.
yeah, I mean, any game that's played well is gonna be in that category, you know. Secta played a game of forward reverse this week.
Mm,
That brings back a lot of fond memories for me because of Brandon Green,
sure.
of
The
Greening,
king of forward reverse.
right? So um, any game played well could probably fit in that category. There are some games that are like in my personal wheelhouse that I like probably more than not. Like A Day in the Life is definitely
Ooh,
a Kopy game.
that is. It's so
Um,
true.
I think it's a game that I enjoy watching. It's a game I enjoy playing. It's a game I enjoy
Mhm.
every part of. Um, in all honesty, any pantomime game is my baby.
Sure.
If I could get the league back, as good in these pantomime games as possible, I would do that. I would do that hands down. Um, uh,
Hey, can we see Fortune Teller on the lowdown though? Like I missed some Fortune Teller. I feel like it's been really rare this year. So speaking of pantomime games, little Fortune Teller for us, please.
oh yeah, for sure. Fortune Teller's pantomime game. Um, I honestly, even an interrogation, I'm a big fan of.
Mm-hmm.
I got to stick my nose in for a half a second on the interrogation this week, and some of maybe my fondest memories are from interrogation and Day in the Life, of just playing these games and really understanding how to do them. They're complex, they're difficult,
Mm-hmm.
and those are probably the games that I sink my teeth into the most, or would if I could. But it's
Very
about who you
cool.
play it with. Like if you remember June, I loved being June's partner in interrogation.
Oh wow.
Loved it.
What a throwback reference that is. If we're speaking
Yeah,
about June Cabalas,
yeah.
former improviser for our Just for Starters and UNLV improv clans, so to speak. Shout out to June wherever he is. Yeah, he would make those games super fun simply out of his natural naivete, right?
Yeah,
Can I throw out the 5th one then, since you gave us
sure.
4 ideas? How about Inception? Well,
Oh, for
incept
sure.
that. Yeah, that's another one of the Kopy creations. Have you ever done an improv scene based around the concept of the Inception film, folks, where like you go into somebody's brain and into their dreams and then develop some small idea to totally alter the character who's at the crux of all the storytelling? Sounds complicated, right? Well, guess what? We've already seen it in the league played twice this year, and it
Mhm.
could come back and do it again in the playoffs. These are the kinds of things you want to be thinking about. Can you use movement and make it as viral as you need to in order for forward and reverse to be successful? Maybe. Can you tell a fun story or take a fun story and augment the pieces in it to be entertaining as you try to portray it to the audience member who gave it to you? Maybe so. Maybe you want to play Day in the Life. Maybe you've been practicing these pantomime games all year and you're really desperate to figure out how to make them super fun and engaging while you're playing and playoff improv, and you're pretty sure you've got the formula down. Maybe you want to be playing some of those 6 things, fortune teller things.
You,
Um,
you can find something to narrow it down to yourself. Here's a funny thing that I know she's going to hate me mentioning this, but Aiden Ahern of Bonanza went down the rabbit hole of watching videos online and
ooh,
found the video of Coach Tirza from Bonanza, playing musical scene in her championship show in 2017.
yep.
And by the end of Aiden was in the background, and by the time it was done, Aiden was singing along with Tirza in the video, because Tirza kind of owned it. Like that was a game that they figured out how to play, and it was funny. Like they did a really good job with that. So if you can figure out what those are, I mean, Tirza won't admit that out loud, and she's probably mad that Aiden found that. But you can narrow some things down and focus on what will work for you guys. So that goes hand in hand with our challenge, at least.
Sit down with your coaches, kiddos. Sit down with your coaches and start thinking, hey, how do we really sing in the playoffs? What do we do that others don't quite do the same way we do it? That's what's going to matter. Set yourselves apart, make those decisions, and have some fun bringing up some of these old games and see if they help get you primed for the prov that matters, because playoffs are just a few short weeks away. But hey, that does conclude week 6. Week 7 is nigh. We will see you at Desert Pines this Saturday for 11 more games of fantastic improv. And we'll be back with just a recap to follow. We're just a few short weeks away from announcing not just the playoff brackets, but also some of the award nominees. If you think you're Rookie of the Year, or if you think your friend next to you might be Most Improved Player, or if you think you just might know who the MVP of the whole league is, then hold your breath and buckle up, because we're just getting started. Just a few more weeks left before you know who the nominees for awards like that are, and we can't wait to see you next week on Just to Recap. We'll catch you at Desert Pines this Saturday for more improv. That's King Kopy. I'm Dub. Bye! Going down? Wee!